What's going on, Scaling the Wall listeners? Something awesome is going on at FifthWall Solutions, and they make this whole podcast possible. If you haven't yet seen the news, FifthWall recently closed on a Series A funding round. Alongside this, the company has brought on some fantastic new employees at the executive level, and we want you to hear from them. Because not only do they have proven track records of success, but they have a deep appreciation for MSPs and the work you do. So this episode is going to be different than what you're used to, but only a little. We're going into the minds of what drive the new execs at FifthWall and why they are excited about where things are going. I am pumped to share these special episodes with you, and I hope they give you just a little bit of insight into how cyber insurance is going to be a major player in helping MSP partners across the globe scale the wall of cybersecurity. Let's get rolling. On this special episode of Scaling the Wall, I am joined by Gene Stevens and Cole Knuth, two best friends who are now co-workers. I actually just made that up. I have no idea how you guys actually know each other, which is actually partially why we're having this conversation here. So two great minds coming together, building companies, doing things together, both interested in investing in FifthWall, but not just investing like money, but investing time and career and job movement. So I'd love to get your take kind of on why you came together, what your kind of shared vision is moving forward, and just kind of going from there. But maybe just start there, whoever wants to kind of kick things off, and then we can kind of dive deep in other ways.
Yeah, I can kind of start where the initial conversation came from. But Gene and I had kind of worked in parallel. He's been around the Pax8 family, has a long history with John and Scott. And so we knew of each other. I'd seen some of the stuff he had done, obviously very familiar with, the exit to Verizon and the work he was doing at Verizon. But actually, Gene's brother, Eric, shout out to Eric, suggested that we talk. He knew some of the things that we were working on. He knew some of the things that Gene had been doing some research on. And so we touched base, got together for lunch. Maybe I'll let you kind of expand on it from there, but that's like how we initially got introduced to talk about cyber insurance.
Yeah, that's the short of it. We had a lot of respect for each other, so we were aware of each other's work. I think that's the main thing. And we both were really hungry to do something. We both had a place in life at the same time. It's like, want to do something new, want to build from scratch. We want to disrupt something, want to go shake things up. And that's kind of a shared energy. So we had that in common, and I think it just clicked.
So the mutual connection was your brother?
He made the initial intro, yeah. So okay. My brother, Eric Stevens, is the Chief AI Officer for Pax8. So he's been at Pax8 for a while. Eric and I have worked together professionally. He worked at ProtectWise, which is the company we sold to Verizon. Scott and I did. And Eric was talking with Cole one day and was learning about this. He goes, you know what? Gene has, one, looked at the space already. And two, I think he is getting really itchy to put the jersey back on and start something. So that is exactly what happened.
See if you can convert him. See if we can get him out of the retirement.
Yeah. And I said, it's going to cost you several tacos and a few beers, and I'm in.
I like that.
You know what? I do want to say, like, one of the things that was really cool is, like, Gene didn't ask a lot of questions the first time we had lunch. So we just kind of had some general catch up. When we got together and had beers in Denver when I was coming back into town, I remember you're like, I've done a ton of research. You're like, this is the timing's impeccable. Like, we should do something.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, I don't know if he's, thought about it much, but like you'd done a lot of research, cited some specific things, which got me even more excited about the realm of possibility.
I actually appreciate you brought that up, because I was thinking the same thing. So one of my questions was, you were working in electricity, and one was the light bulb that went off. So that's helpful. But I was thinking the same thing, because when I first met you, Gene, I talked to, you asked like one question about something in particular, and I went off on my whole tirade about security frameworks and how MSPs are starting to align themselves to that. And you're just kind of listening. And then we stopped talking, like we just went our separate ways. This was at Pax8 Beyond.
Yeah.
Kind of went our separate ways. Then you came back like 6 hours later. Okay, I was thinking about all this stuff, and it took you processed it. And I was like, geez, what? And it's almost, it was really fascinating to see that, like, the mind come back and say, all right, well, I took all that information you provided, I turned it into something that actually makes sense, and here it is.
Yeah, that was the core of it. I mean, I looked at it in the past, it was maybe 2020 timeframe, came really convinced it was going to be big. that whole cyber insurance space was going to take off. It just felt like it was a few years early. And so I wandered off and did other things, had some fun, that kind of stuff. And then Cole reaches out, and I thought to myself, like, oh my God, he's right. The timing's perfect.
Yeah, and what I love too is when we had that conversation, not only did Gene just say, hey, like, I'm excited, I think we're onto something, but like all this stuff that Reed and I have been talking about and, theoretical, perspective of what we could do with market, Gene told he was like, hey, we could actually do this. He's like, this can be done. This can be. And so to have somebody like validate, like, we're like, oh, we could do this and it would help MSPs. It's like, we had no ability to say whether that would work from a tech perspective. And it was great for him to come back. He goes, all these things can definitely be built. And he's like, if you want to do something that's disruptive, this is feasible. And having that initial like feasibility, confirmation was like, I was like, that's what got me excited. I was like, yes, like we're like, this is the go time. Let's lean in harder. So that's where we pushed forward. We expanded the funding, wanted to be more, more assertive with how we invest in FifthWall and the new version of FifthWall. And so that was a really important moment for us. Like, I think just like, and Reed, obviously, we had done a lot of work leading up to that, but it was important to find, someone else to join the leadership team, especially from a tech perspective.
Yeah. And I love the coming together of these minds and saying, hey, we want to disrupt the insurance industry and the way MSPs kind of fit into that mold. What I find so fascinating is the cyber insurance industry is so chaotic that the disrupt it is to bring order to it.
Yeah.
It's kind of really fascinating as to what's going on. So what did that, I want to harken back, go back to that initial conversation when you guys sat down for the first time, you just kind of been introduced. What did that look like? I mean, what was that mostly you kind of sharing the vision and you were just kind of like, what went through your mind? Cause Cole, you mentioned that after that happened, you guys got together again and you said things, but when you stepped away from that conversation, what was going through your mind,
I'll take a first swing at this. The core element on disruption, that's the key word. I mean, there's some basic properties that are known to work in the world. You look at a space that has a lot of complexity, high costs, difficult user experiences, that type of stuff, and you disrupt it by introducing, simplicity, low cost, ease of use, all that kind of stuff. And the space is just so ripe for that. It's almost like a textbook example of something that needs to be disrupted. And so you look at that, and Cole was, via his relationship with Reed, was conveying that we've been talking to MSPs and they want it and we can make their lives great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think one of the things that was really confirming for both of us, like, with our experience in doing the scale up, like we've both been a part of some really successful companies. What's really important is having multiple levers. If you only have one lever and you can only control, 0 to 100% on a single lever, it carries more risk with it. And because this has so many different ways it can go, we have optionality to the way we scale this business. And that's that gives us incredible upside, makes this a very, very smart investment, and gives us a really good position to disrupt. We can be very nimble as we move through the market.
Yeah. So what do you see the conversations from the teamwork standpoint? So obviously, Cole, you're coming in from the mindset of really just growing businesses, and fantastic. You're coming from a CTO perspective, the very tech-minded piece. Neither of you are really coming from an insurance background, but where do you see that really? Where's that cohesion? Where's that synergism of your two backgrounds plus that insurance piece?
Well, it's two words: Reed Wellock. First of all, insurance genius extraordinaire. But actually, I like that we're a bit naive about the insurance industry, like that, with actual methodology on how you run and properly operate in the insurance industry. I think it's gonna be a really nice blend, right? Because for us to be able to challenge and say, well, let's just do this. It's like, we can't. That's illegal. But it's like, you don't want to limit your options prior to starting the journey. So I actually like that we have a nice blend in the way we're going to build and disrupt for the MSPs. It gives us a chance to have a lot more agility, right? Like, we can come up with stuff and just be like, let's do this, and then prove it wrong, right? And that's a great way to start a hypothesis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. So when we look at the space, we're not coming in with complete naivete, right? Cyber insurance, it's a very deep vertical. The insurtech industry is all about going deep and getting really good at something like this. And so a pure play cyber insurance, insurtech type of company makes a ton of sense, but we're coming into it, my background has been in security, scalable security architectures. We have a good grasp of where how those architectures work, where the return on investments are, what things work well for people, what things don't, where are the skeletons in the closets in these products, and that fragmented industry, the burden it puts on operators and the trusted advisors that these MSPs are, and which ultimately puts their customers at risk, not the MSPs, but the security industry to start with. We can address that because we're in a position where we can begin to quantify that risk. And once you quantify risk, a lot of stuff gets a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super helpful. So just the general mission of the Scaling the Wall podcast is to say the cybersecurity world is super complex. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to figure out. And there are so many moving pieces and moving parts that how the heck do I do this? How do I scale this wall of cybersecurity? So as we look to wrap up here, what are some like takeaways that our listeners can be excited about? Mainly MSPs listening in on this. What are some key takeaways that they can look forward to out of this awesome partnership that's developing or has developed?
I mean, we have an MSP-first approach. That is the main number one message, that we want MSPs to know that we are building technology and tools to make their lives very easy, and to help them alleviate risk, liability, that type of stuff. I think that the insurance industry historically has not necessarily been as willing to work with MSPs, certainly not with our level of enthusiasm for it.
I think one of the things that's really important is that, although we will, we're still going to be an insurance company. We're not hiding that. One of the things that was really important is our wholesale access. We want to stay unbiased because we want to be very apparent that our main constituent representative is the MSP. Mm. The insurance market will be represented as a whole, and we're going to do that so we can create an index that the market is pricing risk. That's the real disruption here. And I think the one commitment we'll make on this, the theme of the podcast, is that we are focused on making sure that the MSP maintains its primary position as the advisor, and that the insurance market adjusts the way it works to that. That's what needs to be changed. And the only way we can do that is to make sure that we work with all insurance markets rather than one. That's where I think there's some sticking points in what's trying to be done today.
It seems really exciting to me because up until this point, so many of the conversations we've had with MSPs, their clients are just looking to save money on their insurance.
Yeah.
So the MSP really doesn't have that much motivation to get involved that deeply into the insurance conversation, right, when it's just about the traditional world of like, oh, go to an agent, get a quote. But there's deep tech integration that can happen here. And there's deep opportunity, a vast opportunity for the MSP, right, to expand their ability to better secure their clients, right, using what we're doing here. So I'm really excited, guys. Thanks so much for taking some time here this morning. And we're just looking forward to what's going to come here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, thanks, Will.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Yeah.